This video is going to be a slight departure from the content that I typically put out on my channel because it won't be team or player based. I typically do videos, film study videos about the Baltimore Ravens or the Detroit Lions. This one won't be player focused. This will be looking at a personnel grouping and twisting it a little bit from some other content that I've created about a year ago about 12 personnel offenses. I watched 3 games in week 1 of the preseason, the Lions, Giants, Ravens, Eagles, and then the Seahawks, Chargers games. I was struck by many things, one of which was the usage or perhaps overusage of 12 personnel by all 6 of those teams. Some similarities, some glaring similarities, to be honest with you. Remarkable consistency in the way some of these teams are using 12 personnel and some of the formations that they're relying on. It could almost be described as cookie cutter quality, meaning you had this type of flow, 12 personnel, the same formation, in the exact same play concept run by multiple different teams. I'll show you a couple examples of that as we get going through the video. And there was obviously some stark differences too. It's the preseason. I know there's different players on the field. Starters aren't out there for some teams, particularly early on. There is some scheme variation between teams, obviously, but also some scheme variation within one team when maybe you have backups on the field instead of starters. If you compare the same formation platform from, say, the Eagles and the Lions, there'll be some very different concepts used, but between this Trey Wing and twin wing, you'll see more commonality, more similarities than differences. Either way, you're generally getting the base defense since you're in 12 personnel. I picked this play intentionally to begin the film study portion of it. It's obviously the Giants offense last week against the Lions. It's going from twin wing to Trey Wing, a 2x2 initially. The 2 receivers down here to the bottom side, 2 tight ends up to the top. Sometimes it's a fullback, but point being, it's a wing. It's a tight end and a wing. Motion from 2x2 to 3x1. Additionally here, it's a motion with the outside receiver. So that's somewhat important, I think, to the play design because it allows the inside receiver, who was the inside receiver, to become the number 1, the X. It's a tight split since he was the number 2 receiver. He was to the inside. There's a slight play fake here by the quarterback. Not much. Could be a giveaway in terms of the alignment. It's an over Yankee concept that I'm not sure is incredibly well designed, particularly not against this coverage. You got really 2 routes, and then a running back on the play fake is going to leak out to the bottom side of the screen here. Doesn't really have a whole lot of options for Drew Lock when the Lions are in this cover too, and they've got it pretty much well covered, if you ask me. Seattle against the Chargers, really dominant on defense, but this is a 12 personnel Trey Wing, outside zone to the field. So the ball is on the right hash, for the offense. Wide side is to the offense's left. Short side, boundary side, is to the offense's right. Outside zone to the top side of the field. I think McIntosh is the running back. He hits this for like a 16-yard gain. A couple of things to note. Number 1, you have JSN, the outside wide receiver. Not a super tight split, but he's going to work down to the front side safety. They're going to force the Trey side corner to make a tackle. That's oftentimes used in college football, the NFL, high school as well, but you can see the block that's basically pinning down on that strong safety. The field side corner is unblocked, forced to come up, unable to make anything happen. McIntosh scorched through for a 16-yard gain. One more time so you can see the strong safety roll up, because we'll refer to this many times. Strong safety to the tight end side, free safety away, just for the purposes of this explanation. That's not ubiquitous across all defenses. Some people use opposite personnel. Some people go field and boundary, which you're pretty much seeing almost on every snap. End zone angle from the same play. Left guard is going to reach the D tackle, and they're stepping the outside tight end, who you can see is in contact with the inside tight end's knee. So you're going to get a reach here with the left guard on this D tackle, and that's where the penetration comes from because he's on the wrong side, he being the D tackle. So they're running this tight end across to potentially try to deal with this defensive end if he slams down, also to threaten to leak on a hide concept out into the flats, maybe pull or hold this will linebacker as well. So they're trying to trade 2 for 2, 1 with the quarterback, 2 with that tight end that I just diagrammed for the will and the backside D end. In any case, JSN gets a good block. Like I said, the left guard reaches the defensive tackle. And conceptually, just one more thing to establish, putting the backside defensive end in conflict, trying to create conflict on the backside will, inside linebacker with this tight end as well. But the backside D end unblocked because he's in conflict. Is he go down the line of scrimmage to take on the run, possibly veer off to the quarterback if he's selfish, or does he try to collision this tight end and prevent that tight end from getting out into the flats? Really did neither of those. One more to illustrate the run/play action boot concept out of this. Hendon Hooker in at quarterback last week. Play action to the top side, very similar to what you just saw, except you don't have one of the tight ends pulling opposite the O-line's flow. And then it's the boot back to the weak side. Perfectly complemented these previous two plays, if you ask me, even though I know one of them was from the end zone, or one of them had both angles, and this one only had the all-22. Backside D-end, outside linebacker put in conflict again. Everybody running the zone to the top side. All the flow is there, especially with the running back. Hooker booting opposite of it. And you got flood stuff coming back, routes underneath. Deeper route, looks like perhaps there's supposed to be a follow there, and just a clear out from the bottom side. They're really going to focus in this video on showing you how you can isolate backside players, particularly backside edge players, sometimes the backside inside linebacker. Notice the strong safety rolled up to the tight end wing side as well, just like in the last two plays I showed you. Pretty much have to match numbers. It's a base defense that's on the field against 12 personnel, whether you're in a 4-3 or a 3-4. The strong safety helps you even the numbers up in terms of defensive side of the ball. Still going to be talking about the same formation, Trey Wing, 3x1 formation, 3 to the top side here. But now we're going to transition a little bit to some downhill stuff. And I'm going to focus on how this can impact an even front, basically a 4-3. In this case, it happens to be a 3-4 structure by the Lions, but James Houston IV is the Sam linebacker, technically they call him, but they've called the strength into the boundary. Ball's on the left hash, and they've walked him back to be an inside linebacker. So no one's wrong to call this a 4-3 with the strong safety rolled up to the tight end wing side. We're not wrong, but technically they're doing it from a 3-4 platform. James Houston IV is not an inside linebacker. Anyway, you can create magic against the even front, against a 4-3, because you can get all these double teams right at the point of attack, right on the line of scrimmage, if you will. I'll try to pause it and let you see it here, and then from the end zone angle as well. Double team on a D tackle, double team on a D tackle. We know they're going to combo up in a lot of cases. Double team right here on the defensive end to the strong side, and then the receiver, again, is going to go get the strong safety, just like you saw JSN do on that 16-yard run by McIntosh for the Seahawks. It creates a 6-on-3, basically, in those situations initially, and the inside linebackers have to even it up. Tracy, I think, is the running back. Forget his first name. Goes for 12 or 13 yards. He does a nice job of finding the hole, and James Houston IV is not an inside linebacker. He's not recognizing, like, this is an open window. It's a run read. Let's go on ahead and go. He's trying to flow with the running back, and eventually ends up missing the tackle. He's not an inside linebacker. He's an outside linebacker that they walked back there. We'll give you the end zone angle so you can see the 6-on-3 nature of it at first. Doesn't mean that it's actually 6-on-3 throughout the entirety of the play. They locked with the backside tackle on the defensive end, double team, all across the board. Strong safety strong safety being blocked by the outside receiver. And you can see Tracy is able to bring this back. Lions really got it stacked up, well on the front side. Takes it out the back door for a 12 or 13-yard gain. Giants offense, again, you'll hear me flipping through some papers. Sorry, this project became huge while I was working on it today. I anticipated it being like a 12 to 15-minute video, but it's tough to figure that, tough to do that when you saw so many plays that fit the structure I was looking for. Anyway, related to downhill stuff. Now, James Houston IV is on again, but they've retained their 3-4 structure. Didn't walk him back. It's going to be a typical play action by the Lions, meaning it's a vertical set off the play by the Giants. It's a vertical set off the play action and not a boot opposite of any run flow. Additional to that, the strong safety, once again, is rolled up to the tight end wing side, but on the snap, he's going to rotate back to a cover two coverage. You can see the delineation here. You got 4 under, 2 deep. James Houston, the fourth, is late dropping out because he's the same linebacker on the line of scrimmage. It's a 1st and 10. So why are the Lions willing to roll the strong safety back? Well, they wanted to show it, and the Giants' offense is 81 yards from the end zone. So tactically, it's a good choice, if you ask me, to go to a cover 2 this far away from your own goal line or your own red zone and force the offense to execute up and down the field. Aaron Glenn played a lot of cover 2 last week for the Lions, if you don't know. I'm not sure what that decision was for. Maybe he just wanted to protect his corners, his rookie corners that were out there, but nonetheless ends up being a productive defensive call for him. Switch it up a little bit. Here, it's still 12 personnel. First play of the game for the Steelers with Justin Fields at quarterback, by the way. It's interesting that this is the first play of the game. It's a screen. It's a screen to Najee Harris up to the boundary. And again, you're creating conflict by either the backside edge defender or, in this case, the backside inside linebacker. I think it's 43. He's the only guy who is anywhere near the point of attack. The screen is to the boundary. After a run fake into the boundary, so slightly different from what we've seen so far, where you would have run action here, quarterback boot in the opposite direction, or running back pretty much downhill and quarterback on a vertical set. Here you've got play action to the running back into the boundary. Screen is set up extremely well. It's away from the strong safety who's rolled up into the box to the side where you have 2 tight ends. It's a tight end wing. Tight end wing, strong safety rolled up there. This is the guy who's going to be pretty much all on his own. Now, look, Danielle Hunter almost destroys this play. It's a nice design, don't get me wrong, but he almost blows the whole thing up and nearly forces a fumble. I know Fields had trouble with fumbles, but you see how 43 is isolated. Just like some of those other plays, it's not the same concept. It's not a play action boot, but by using the 12 personnel formation Trey Wing, you can force a defense's base defense to roll the strong safety up and then attack either to that side or away from that side strategically. I would say that even though these are different concepts, you are seeing some consistent themes across them in terms of how offensive coordinators are choosing to attack that rolled up strong safety, or really I should say away from him. This last one from Trey Wing will be a drastic departure from some of the other play concepts I've shown you, whereby they're attacking or creating conflict on the weak side. This one is strong side, so where the tight end wing are and the receiver. I call it a cheat play, takes advantage of the defense playing man down in the red zone. The receiver, Johnny Wilson, is going to pin down on the outside linebacker. Presumably, we've got man here with Wiggins on Johnny Wilson, and not just one, but 2 safeties rolled down to the tight end wing side by the Ravens. No one picks up the running back in the flats. I think you've got man-to-man defense. And in this case, whoever was responsible for the running back, whether it was Ardarius Washington or Josh Ross, gets hung up in all the trash there. Wiggins doesn't switch off, regardless of whose fault it is. The point is, it's a pin down on the edge defender that you can create because you have an outside receiver lined up wider than the edge defender than the outside linebacker normally is. Full flow with the quarterback and the running back out into the flats. Most quarterbacks are right-handed, obviously. Reverse pivoting. Most iterations of this play, you'll see the quarterback is moving out to his right. The second formation that we'll focus on out of 12 personnel is twin wing. Got film from the same teams from week 1. Obviously, this is the Lions offense. You got a typical reaction by the Giants defense with their base personnel. So as we flow back to the beginning of the play, here's what I mean. The will linebacker is going to widen up to the twins. Again, we're talking about 2 receivers, which is where the passing strength is, and 2 tight ends, which is where the run strength is on opposite sides of the formation. The will linebacker is going to widen up, essentially apex. Imagine a triangle between the slot receiver, the right tackle, and the feet of that will linebacker. That's about where he should be at 5 to 5.5 yards depth. I think the will linebacker does a great job here of tempo, of leverage, and trying to stay in the window of this over route by, I think it's Mitchell, the other tight end. It's a play action boot. Sudfeld, who obviously isn't the quickest quarterback out there, ends up getting, I think, 5 or 6 yards. So 82 is running this over concept. 84 ends up kind of being on a skinny post. I feel like he could bring this back across too, but maybe they're trying to keep his route a little bit more vertical to hold this backside safety, keep that backside safety from getting involved in the coverage at all. But in any case, there's no one on secondary force. The conflict is created in the same manner as some of the plays that I showed you before. It's the backside defensive end and the backside will linebacker. Run action. Sudfeld's a little bit slow getting his feet out of there. Run action is all in the same direction as the zone, so there's no split flow. This is the defensive end in primary conflict. The will linebacker's in conflict. Now, from a run-pass standpoint, because he's in coverage, but he doesn't know if the quarterback is going to break, contain, and get downfield to gain yards. In this case, Sudfeld goes out of bounds for a 4 or 5 yard gain. Same setup here for the Lions a little bit later on. This will be the complementary play to the one that I just showed you, which is basically an outside zone concept into the boundary. It's a 1st and 10. I think it's the first possession for the Lions, but I could be wrong. The ball is pretty much in the middle of the field, but check out what the Giants do differently here. They cowboy this corner. He's to the boundary right now. 54 is the will that walked out earlier. They cowboy this corner, which is basically corner over. So now you've got 2 corners on the same side. They're going to roll the strong safety up. So same answer there as what you saw with Trey Wing. And then here's the free safety. Of course, there's only 4 DBs on the field because it's your base defense against 12 personnel. Kicked everybody over. The Giants kicked everybody over to the tight end wing side for whatever reason. And lo and behold, the guy who would normally be lined up near the Twins, 54, ends up being one of the players to help finish off the tackle. It's also a great job by the edge defender. I think it's Ojulari, 51 here. He's going to stab the inside tight end, which I think is 82, walk him a yard in the backfield, and then be able to peek and dive back inside. Reynolds, I think, only gets, I believe, 3 yards out of this. But it's the complementary play to the play-action boot that you saw earlier. In the same dynamic, backside defensive end or outside linebacker, in this case 55, totally unblocked, conflict created for him. You run down the line of scrimmage, veer off to the quarterback once you see the ball. In this case, he's running down the line of scrimmage but is unable to get involved. Another twin wing formation, slightly different run concept. Very, very similar, I would say, to one that I showed you earlier in the first set of plays from Trey Wing. 3 double teams at the point of attack because you have an even front by the defense, so 4-3 structure. In this case, you got another linebacker walked out, and you're going to get double teams all across the front, and then just a base or a lock with the left tackle on the defensive end. Really a great job with its combo double team here. I called it double teams early. It's just a combo. But those two are really walking that defensive end, that outside linebacker back. They're depositing him in the lap of the corner who took a really poor angle. Corner basically blocked himself and then ends up falling down over top of the outside linebacker. Instead of filling to the outside, he's thinking he may need to fill inside this C gap. That's why he's holding the angle he's got. And the outside linebacker pretty much gets dumped in his lap. You can see the combo's a little bit better from the end zone angle. Same play that we're talking about here and here. And then they stay on this guy. Lock on the backside, just a base block. A lot of under center run games so far. Which teams are a little bit more creative than, I guess, what I'm showing you. So let's go shotgun and switch it up a little bit. This will be a gun by the Eagles. If you're unfamiliar with that terminology, you haven't watched too many of my videos, a gun means the running back is on the same side as the tight end. Well, in this case, there's 2 tight ends because it's 12 personnel. So into the boundary, ball's on the left hash, you got 2 tight ends, and you've got the running back. So twin wing A, and you get a same side run. It's a great job by Trenton Simpson right here. Same thing exists pretty much here in that you got double team combos across the front, and Simpson's going to step down, and I think he punches the left guard in the mouth, and then sheds, makes a tackle, 3-yard gain. But unfortunately for the Ravens, it's a 2nd and 1. But you got the same dynamic as the last play I showed you, whether it's under center or A gun or B gun. You can a little bit tougher with B gun because of the angle for the running back, but you can create the same double teams against an even front. Switching it up even further, still A gun from a formation standpoint, but usage. This is the Ravens motioning across from Trey Wing to twin wing. It's a 3rd and 2. The Ravens end up with 3 to the boundary, meaning the 2 tight ends and the running back. It's oftentimes the Ravens like to run snag out of this and kind of turn it into a smash concept as well. So that would be running back into the flats, outside tight end, kind of snag it up and sit in the hook area, and then the inside tight end kind of run a vertical and create that snag smash. In this case, they're switching it up and running mesh. No one ends up really being, wide open. I do think the angled hook is available, but it's tightly covered. I mean, you could throw the football. It's probably going to be incomplete or contested or challenged, but the opportunity is there to throw it. And we end up getting caught not being able to get a first down. Point is, you can utilize A gun to run spread concepts. You can utilize A gun to run downhill run concepts, like you saw the Eagles do a moment ago. Moving forward a little bit, still the Eagles-Ravens game, but we're in B gun now. A little bit more modern flavor, I guess, if you want to call it. Running back is away from the tight end, so B gun, like I mentioned, the Eagles go with an RPO. They're going to create, and they ran a lot of RPOs in this game. They're going to create horizontal conflict in this direction with the running back and the offensive line. And then back to the other side, on the back side of it, they have routes being run. Ravens have also gone cowboy and walked the corner over, so they got 2 corners matched up against the receivers. Strong safety rolled up to the tight end wing side, just like I explained to you guys with the Trey Wing formation. Credit to Kenny Pickett for holding on to the ball. I think it's John Ross that's with the catch, to be honest with you. But credit to Kenny Pickett. I thought he ran the RPO stuff quite well against the Ravens the other night. The 2 routes on the backside. Wiggins has kind of been beat here by Wilson to the inside. Ross is a little bit of a clunky route, bringing this back here. I think the read man was Trenton Simpson. You get the end zone angle, so you can check it out if you want. So there's variations out of the 12 personnel grouping, even inside of the same formation. I should say there's variations of what you can run. If you want to be power run game under center with a complementary play action stuff, go right ahead. If you want to be in the shotgun, A gun, B gun, and even run some, quote, spread concepts, you certainly can as well. Trenton Simpson looks like to me he'd be the read man, and since he went with the back, rightfully so, because if you just did the math here, Ravens have 5 defenders for 5 potential blockers, and the running back being the 6th player, so it'd be 6 on 5. And Simpson, I think, is in pretty much the correct place because they're playing man over here to the other side. It's all related, what coverage you play and what your reaction is as an inside linebacker, depending on where you have help. One more example of a twin wing play, still out of 12 personnel. Obviously, it's a 2nd and 7 for the Ravens. B with the running back away from the tight end wing. Eagles are bringing a blitz from the inside linebacker. I like the route concept that the Ravens are using. Basically, it's a stop by number 1. And then a pseudo wheel route by number 2. He's kind of running almost like he's going to block number 1. Or just maybe it's an outside release. Turns into a wheel. Great catch by Sean Ryan that was eventually ruled incomplete. When I sit down to do a film study video, it's oftentimes about a player or a team or a formation that a team is running repeatedly to create conflict. In this case, I think I got a little bit obsessive about 12 personnel and Trey Wing and twin wing. It's how I identified with the game initially, which was personnel and formation, and then the plays that flow from it. The thing that I would say as far as week 1 of the preseason, at least, is I saw wide variation just in these 2 formations. Focused on those 2 elements, those 2 formations, and I feel like that helps me explain things better. For you, maybe it illustrates my own limitations on how to display the data or display the film and explain it to you. But nonetheless, I think there was over representation of 12 personnel usage in week 1 of the preseason. Why was that? Could be NFL teams are trying to go against base defenses more. It could be the nature of the backups being on the field more often. Play callers were going with more vanilla, more conservative play calls, particularly the under center run game and under center boot stuff. I would accept that as well. Maybe it's both of those reasons. Maybe we're seeing more competent and quality tight ends being either utilized or tested to see what they're able to accomplish. I will say this, the two teams that I'm blessed enough to cover, the Ravens and the Lions, both have extremely good pass catching tight ends, such that you can go 12 personnel and still operate out of 11 personnel formations. In fact, the Ravens have 2 of them. The Lions have Sam Laporta, of course, just had a historic rookie year for a tight end. Ravens have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So just by the nature of having 12 personnel on the field, I don't think is a limiting factor at all, especially if one of those tight ends has the receiving talent of a Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, or Isaiah Likely. If you guys had any feedback on this, or if you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. I like to do conceptual videos on offense or defense because A, it's interesting to me, B, it challenges me to try to package and present the information and the plays in some type of progression. This one ended up being a really long-term film study that I think proves my obsession with football because I didn't intend for it to be this long. But nonetheless, I hope you appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you think other football fans would enjoy this film study look at 12 personnel and how it was utilized in the first week of the preseason extensively, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.